Hey, Tony Gaskins here. Now y'all have to forgive me. I'm in the dark because not trying to be like the man in the dark, but it's hot outside. I don't have my AC on. And first, before we get started, shout out to all the supporters of Tony Gaskins Family Foundation and the Boys Program. Really appreciate you. We got a trip to Dallas, Texas, May 1st through the 3rd. And really thank y'all for helping us, make that happen. We right there. I keep the link in the description. So thank y'all for y'all support. And want to touch on this because I just was on a very powerful, call with a couple of men. And when I say brothers, I don't mean just black men. And when I say brothers, I just mean men. And so it could be all races. And so I want y'all to understand that. But was on a call with a couple of brothers, and we were talking about the recent violent situations, what happened like with the young lady in Florida who worked in government and her life was taken, and then the man in Virginia who worked in government, former lieutenant governor or something like that, who took the life of his wife, and then the black male in Shreveport. So it's three black males right there in recent news, having taken or trying to take the life. The one in Shreveport, shot his woman in the face and then took the life of, the children, 8 children. And this is the thing that I want, and share this with the men in your life, even your teenage sons and your brother, your uncle, your dad, whoever, maybe your boyfriend, fiance, husband. But this is what I want men to understand is that as a man, you're going to face a lot of spiritual warfare. And what you have to understand that this is a spirit and it is in the spiritual realm. This is not a physical war. This is an internal battle. That's why your mind feels like you're going crazy. And so you cannot wrestle in flesh and blood. And it's crazy to think that we have a guide for life that people are trying to turn into this fairy tale book. But what I'm speaking on actually comes from this guide for life. And in this guide for life, it says that we wrestle not in flesh and blood. So when you look at the examples I just shared with you, those are three men who went to wrestle in flesh and blood. We wrestle not in flesh and blood. And I'm gonna Google it just to read it. It translated, it being translated, you know. But we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. So, what is flesh and blood? That is the human body. So, if you are wrestling against a human body, if you have to mutilate or hurt or beat yourself, if you have to do that to another human, then you are wrestling in the wrong place, in the wrong way. But when you wrestle against principalities and against powers and against the rulers of darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places, now you understand this is a spiritual body. This is a spiritual battle. So, what is a spirit? A spirit cannot be seen, a spirit cannot be touched. A spirit does not have a physical form. The human body is a physical form. So, if you want to affect the human body, sticks and stones may break my bones. So the human body is affected by the physical. And yes, it can be affected by the spiritual, but it's a byproduct. But if you want to attack a spirit, you have to use spiritual warfare in the sense of what affects your spirit the most: fasting, going without food, and sometimes going without food, without water for extended periods of time, whether that's 12 hours, 16 hours, 24 hours, 36 hours. When I fast, my brain becomes so clear. My emotional intelligence goes to a level that is indescribable. The thoughts that just bombard my mind and have me in a place of just confusion and stress and pain, those thoughts are eradicated. They cease to exist. Like the peace and the clarity on the other side of fasting. And I do like 72-hour fast, but 24-hour, 48 also work. But I'll do a 72-hour water fast, 12 to 24-hour dry fast, meaning no food, no water. And in that fast also is prayer. And a lot of times people don't understand prayer. Prayer is you using words, speaking to yourself or speaking to God. Prayer is in many different forms. It doesn't require 16-letter words. It doesn't require crying or screaming or any of those things. Like a lot of times people think that it has to be so eloquent and it has to be so contrived and all of those things, and that's not the case. So I want you to understand that while you are in that space, while you're fasting, while and also the spirit responds to isolation, but the isolation isn't total isolation. Isolation means you remove yourself from around people and from around things and distractions. But in that isolation, you are still in the spiritual realm. So you're praying, you are in supplication, you are ministering to yourself, you're talking to yourself. And I'm gonna tell you something. This is painful. Like this, like what it takes to go to battle spiritually is painful because it requires you to remove yourself from around people, and it requires you to be quiet, to be silent. I don't mean you're not talking to yourself. I don't mean you're not talking to God. What I mean is you're not talking to people, and you are going to war within yourself against the powers and the principalities, against the rulers of this world, those dark forces, those spirits. And I'm gonna tell you, it's almost, I really don't think it's nothing. I don't think it's anything that a fast can't heal. I don't think it's anything that allowing your body to process without food and allowing your body to cleanse and to destroy and kill the toxic cells and then convert it into energy. Like if you're of the health and you are relatively healthy, I'm not talking about you on your deathbed or whatever or what have you, but and here's the thing, that the body is all interwoven and connected. So a lot of the stuff happens without you being deeply spiritual. Like your brain starts to function and process better when it has extended periods without food. because it fully processes what you've eaten already, and it digests and it runs the course and it runs through your system. So the brain becomes very clear, and the fog dissipates because the brain is preparing for you to go hunt or you to go gather for your next meal. And so it really, the brain isn't really expecting to eat every 3 or 4 hours, because it's preparing and it wants to provide energy so that if you have to travel by foot, if you have to wrestle in the physical realm against something to find food or to get food. Now, for those of you who don't eat meat or whatever or stuff like that, then you just going to gather. But if your land is desolate, if you have to travel by foot to a more precipitous land that is providing, that has provisions, now your brain is preparing your body for that journey. So it's going to kill what's bad in you and convert it into energy so you can go get what it needs in a timely fashion before it starts to weaken and to die. So the thing about it is what men are doing is, you are, instead of isolating, and when I say isolating, meaning you're not stimulating your brain. And what's happening is men are overstimulating the brain with man-made devices, stimulating the brain with porn or video games, alcohol, marijuana, gambling, social media. And so the brain doesn't get time to detox. The brain doesn't get time to create clarity. Instead, it's being just fed all of this confusion and all of these patterns and sound waves and just systems and thought processes and all of this stuff from social media and from pornography and from this just manufactured distractions. So it never gets to go to the root and really address the root of what you are at war with spiritually, because the things that you're engaging in are topical. So it's kind of like having a cancer in the body and putting on sunscreen or lotion and telling yourself that this topical ointment is going to eradicate that cancer in the body, where you have to attack that area, and it has to be attacked internally. And so what they've created is radiation. But what a lot of people don't realize is God already has radiation and chemotherapy through fasting. So not to say that it'll eradicate cancer once you have it, but what I mean is the body is already designed. When you fast and you pray and you sup with your creator, then I got a coach in 16 minutes. Your body starts to work for itself. It will start to go and it will fight and it will go to war and it will try to eradicate and kill everything that's killing it. So that mucus and sugar and all the stuff that we feeding ourselves with. And so think about this. A man is metabolically unhealthy and his brain is foggy and he's stressed, he's angry, he's worried. And on top of all of that, he gives his brain THC from marijuana. He gives his brain alcohol. He gives his brain pornography. He gives his brain overstimulation from a video game or from gambling. And he gives his brain that. What is the brain going to do with that? It's going to fry itself. It's going to scramble and fry like scrambled eggs. Picture that. And it's scrambling and frying itself. And now it becomes erratic. So now it's shooting out all these signals and it's going crazy because of the stimuli and because what it has been given is atomic. Like what it has been given is just so toxic and it's attacking it. The brain is being attacked by the outside forces and it's being attacked by the those who have the power, the wickedness in high places. And so a man will then go and he's seeking this insight and he finds the red pill. You find the men who are butt hurt. They're angry with women. They're hurt by women. They're mad. They're going through and they're dealing with all of that. And y'all forgive me, Father. Father from the boys program, and not all of our boys are in the same situation. So we do have one of the dads is very. Let me see what he wrote me. He said he was writing from his other phone. And so this the thing, and I'll tell you now, when you married too, a lot of times, or you got a girlfriend or whatever it is, a lot of times the woman in your life is hindering you and hurting you even more, and she doesn't realize it. So one thing about being a man is you have to be self-responsible. You have to be able to do what is best for your spirit, man, for your spirit, than just your body. So a woman will want you to feed your body and she will want to feed your body. She will want your presence. But when you know you are at war spiritually, you have to let her know that you have to go to war. You may have to go to a hotel for 3 nights. Or for one night, you may have to, and this ain't something that you can abuse and try to use and try to go do dirt, try to cheat, because all that gonna get found out. This is for the men who, when you battle internally, you battle spiritually, you truly looking for the solution. And what you gotta do sometimes is you gotta get away. And get away could mean you go into a room. You go into a room by yourself, or you go into a living room, bedroom, closet, and you sit there and you journal, you write, you pray, you think, and you do it without food. And you let your brain process, you let your body process, you let your body call on everything that it needs to call on and go to work internally the way it needs to go to work. And you let that happen. Let that happen and you start to do that work. And so this what I want you to think about, what I want you to realize and understand that a lot of men, like the three men that I use as an example, that's spiritual warfare. That's demonic possession, demonic spirit. We call it mental health. It's the same thing. It's the physical brain being affected by the spiritual positioning, by a spirit. And that's what mental health is. It's not just brain deterioration. It comes from spiritual warfare. And then the brain being altered and warped by the feedback, the stimuli, the input that we put into our brain. So what you're listening to and who you're listening to determines whether you're going to go up or whether you're going to go down. If you're in a bad place, you're in a tough place, and then you go and you listen to a guy was who went through a divorce and he's bitter about it, you're going to go down. You go and you listen to a guy who was cheated on by his ex-girlfriend, you're going to go down. Because if that man has not healed and he's not whole, he's going to make you feel like you are a victim. And he's going to make you hate women. He's going to make you despise women. And you're going to go into victim mode, victim mentality. And that is a dangerous space to be in as a big, strong man, because that makes you a weak and insecure man. And an insecure man is a dangerous man. A strong man is a confident man, and a confident man is a blessed man. A confident man changes the things around him. He impacts the culture. He shifts the atmosphere, and he elevates the space that he's in. An insecure man tears apart the atmosphere from the inside out and eventually tries to physically strangle or physically eliminate what he is feeling spiritually. And that's the issue that we're facing. So I want you to think about this, and I want you to get to that place. Let me see here. Sorry about that. Working with the boys program. We trying to get this thing together. So think about that, y'all. That's pretty much the end of that. I'm talking to y'all about what I'm dealing with spiritually now. So we have to, I'm raising the funds for the boys, but guess what they done did? So now, because of the Strait of Hormuz and the oil not flowing, it getting through the prices of all the gas, the fuel going up. So now it's becoming more costly. Now it's becoming more costly for flights because it's costing more in the fuel. And so that's costing us. So I want y'all to understand when I be all over the place and my mind be somewhere else, that's what I be thinking about and dealing with, because I made these boys a promise. And like our third team, our regional team, My dad is driving my Sprinter today, and three of the boys, four of the boys need a ride. One of them got a ride with another teammate, but three other boys need a ride. So it's like we taking care of these boys. One of the boys is from another country, so he don't even have parents here. And then the other boys, their parents just can't afford it, get the time off work or the gas and then the cost to get into the gym. So it's like when I get to the place where I can really, really fundraise and I get on that level, or I get to the place where I can donate all of it, then I'm 1000% gonna do it. But it's so much help that needs to be done. And this is where I'm seeing where so many black boys are falling through the cracks. And that right there leads to spiritual warfare. And that leads to these three men that we just mentioned. When men don't have an outlet. And a lot of time parents don't realize that, yeah, you inconvenienced, but you're grown. You didn't already lived. You didn't already got through. You grown. So if you don't sign your son up for sports, and you don't make the sacrifice to drive where you gotta go, bed bar still. If you can't afford to go in, then drive your child on the cheapest gas, park in the parking lot, let the windows down, or sit and let the car idle. It don't burn as much gas as you think. And sit in the AC if it's too hot or whatever. Get your little mobile fan and make that sacrifice for your sons, your daughter, so that they have an outlet. They have something to do, so that they're not just sitting in the room in spiritual warfare, deteriorating, with their brain deteriorating and becoming an incel. And so that a lot of that stems from that childhood, and just us not being willing to make the sacrifices that need to be made. And so we got to think about that. And I was thinking about that today. I'm like, man, even with these boys who their parents can't take them, and these all black boys, and then the boy who has support, he's Hispanic. His parents, his mom, they don't have money either. They sacrifice and they go and they picking up the black boys. And then the white boys, they parents are sacrificing, they picking up the black boys. So then I realized this is why so many black boys end up selling drugs, because their parents ain't got no money and they trying to figure out a way to make some money. And that's the only way they know how to make money, is just get on their feet and get on the block to make fast money, to make quick money. They don't know how to fill out an application. They fill out an application, they can't get to the job. The job that they got to get to is further than the block that they could go stand on and sell cocaine, sell weed. And so it's so many black boys end up in the streets because the parents would not do what it take to make the sacrifice that need to be made. And that's why my foundation and this program exists, to help these boys who parents are not in a position to help them. And not bashing the parents because they just not in a position, but it's a lot of parents who are in a position and choosing not to help because they rather sit home and be lazy because they tired from their job, but not realizing that this is what creates generational curses. This is what passes down generational trauma, by you getting tired and you quitting on your child. And so now your child has no advantages. They have no opportunities. They have no motivation. They have nothing going for themselves. And then they end up in prison, or they end up pregnant, or they end up getting a girl pregnant, and you wondering what went wrong. You went wrong because you was lazy, because you was tired, and you didn't realize that you weren't tired when you got on your back. And so if you weren't tired when you got on your back, then you can't be tired from this 40 to 60 or 80 hour a week job, because you brought this child in the world against their permission. You got to stand up and you got to sacrifice and you got to make a way. You have to make a way and not make excuses. Point blank, period. But hey, this Tony Gaskins, God bless you. Keep your head up. And we'll talk soon. Got the coach.